Okay, hi everyone, it's Gerald Donovan here, Grand Seiko Guy, and for those of you who follow the Grand Seiko Guy account on Instagram, you would have seen that we've recently had a very exciting piece come into stock, which is this box set here that you see on the right hand side of the first Grand Seiko. So we're going to be doing a full unboxing of that in this video, but also we're going to compare the early box, which we see on the right, with the later box, which is more commonly found. And I say more common, any box set of the Grand Seiko First is extremely rare. We've had, we have two pretty much complete box sets in this box. This is actually a spare box. But of the early one, which is the one that we see on the right, this is actually the only full set that we are aware of. We know quite a few of the top Japanese collectors, and I don't believe any of them have this as a full set. There must be more of these out there. I'll talk about sort of estimates as to how long this early box was used for, in the course of this video. So there must be more out there, but this is certainly the only one to come to market in a very long time. So we'll just have a look at the two boxes. You can see very different designs to them. On the left-hand side, the later one actually has this full text of the wrist chronometer of supreme quality in accordance with the international standard on the outside of the box, whereas the right-hand one, the early one, simply says Grand Seiko chronometer with the Grand Seiko lion in the top left-hand corner. Let's just have a look at each of them individually. So I'll take this one off set for the moment, and we'll just have a look at this box. So we do have a full unboxing of a complete set of this box on the channel already. I think it was actually maybe the first video that will be uploaded. So I'd refer you to that video for the details. But just as an overview, we can see there's an outer box which is made of cardboard, and then an inner box inside, which is sort of a hard material. Not quite sure what this material is, but it has the Grand Seiko logo embossed in gold lettering on the, or applied, I should say, really applied gold lettering on the outside of the case. Just have a look around the box. There's really nothing more to say about that. But just show you what's on all sides of it, and the bottom part of that outer box, just a plain sort of hard card box. And then if we look inside the box here, we can see that same text repeated on the inside of the lid, and Grand Seiko red color on top here, and then a yellow tray underneath, with this tiny little card border here, which enables the yellow tray to actually firmly sit there. Okay, so that was the early box. Sorry, that was the later box. The early box is actually featured on the front cover of the March 1961 issue of Seiko News. This is the sales letter, or the newsletter, that would have been sent to the authorized dealers every month. This, we can see, is issue number 33. These actually started, I think, in 58 or 59. I think originally 6 monthly, then it went to quarterly, and then it went to monthly. And these run right through the 1960s and into the 1970s. And we have a collection of about 120 or 130 of these now, trying to complete the full set. And when we find interesting Grand Seiko articles inside these, then we do scan them and put them on the site. So there, I'll just open the pages here so we can see what's on the inside. But we do have a scan of this entire issue on the website. If I remember, I'll put a link to that in there. So there we can see the Grand Seiko. One of the interesting things about the early Grand Seiko First is there's a lot of confusion about the crown, and what we can actually see is that the crown that is pictured in this magazine is very different to the crown that we usually see on Grand Seiko Firsts. And when I say the crown, there's actually I think three different crowns illustrated here. There's the crown that we can see that's on the watch, that's in the box on the cover, and then when we turn the page, there's a crown here, which is clearly different to the one that's on the cover, and we can't quite make out the crown on the Mr. Smoking Man's wrist, and then another different crown here. So a lot of confusion rightly on what is the correct crown for the Grand Seiko First, as we'll see when we do the unboxing that I believe this one does have the right crown, but it does look very similar to the one featured in Seiko News. Okay, so let's put that to one side and bring back this box set. It is quite remarkable for this to come into our possession. We're going to probably put this away for a couple of years because the true value of this I believe is enormous. I don't think the market at the moment for vintage Grand Seiko would actually justify. Well, I don't think the price is justified in the market at the moment. But I think as things pick up next year with the 60th anniversary of the brand, there's going to be a lot more interest in collecting vintage Grand Seiko, and items like this truly are exceptional. And so we're going to be happy to sit on this and wait for the market to catch up with our perspective on what something like this is worth. Let's just enough about the price. Let's just spin the box around, because one of the things we didn't know, because there is only, to the best of my knowledge, there's only one photograph of this outer box on the internet, which is on a Japanese dealer's website, and it doesn't show the side of the box. And here we can see that on the side of the box actually says DiaShock 25 joules, and also interestingly the SD logo there. So we take off the outer box, and then we're going to see the inner box, which is really quite spectacular. Okay, so here's the inner box, and it really is quite something. It's sort of a soft, almost velvety finish in black, and then with this incredible metal applied triangle, which has Grand Seiko embossed on the top side here. And then if we lift it up, we can see that it says, underneath that it says chronometer. Just trying to make sure we get the chronometer in focus. Hopefully that's in focus. And I won't turn it upside down because there's a watch inside it. But you can see sort of the profile. The box is very curved profile, whereas the later box is all very straight edged. We open this up to see what's inside. I'm just going to put the watch to one side at the moment. And in fact we'll just remove those tags just so we can lift it up and see. There's the text that we see both on the outer box and in the inside of the lid of the later box. The wrist chronometer of supreme quality in accordance with the international standard. This lovely sort of silk lining at the bottom here with a little hook there to attach the watch firmly. And actually sort of a raised platform underneath it. I have no idea how this is constructed. I'm not going to obviously take it apart. Grey inner lining in here, and then this was if we compare this actually to the original photograph on the front cover of Seiko News, we can see that it was probably a much richer, deeper shade of red. Excuse me, when it was first produced, but obviously this has aged over time and lost some of its colour. Now, in terms of additional things that are in the box, we have two separate swing tags. The first one is the sort of the branding swing tag that we can see here. It says it's a square tag. It says Grand Seiko on one side, and then if we turn it over, Seiko specially inspected Grand Seiko. There we go. Look at it that way around. Specially inspected Grand Seiko on a yellow cord. The second tag, which this is, I think the only thing missing is there's a sort of a purple cord that we see or mauve cord that we see on the front cover of Seiko News. So I'll try to find a very similar looking thread for this. Perfect adjustment Grand Seiko Sakosha. In a key shape. I'm not quite sure why it's a key shape, or whether it's something else and I'm misinterpreting it. And then we flip it over, and we can see on the inside it says Grand Seiko. I think this is chronometer 25J, 25 joules, and then the movement number 605950 in this instance. And the reason for the movement number is because obviously the watch would be displayed away in the shop, away from the certificate and the box, and even the box possibly. And so when the retailer came to sell the watch to a customer, he'd need to make sure they had the correct paperwork. Obviously the certificate is key. So this swing tag would be attached to the watch so that the retailer could then find the correct paperwork for the watch. The last thing which is in here, which is amazing, again we see this on the cover of Seiko News, but what isn't obvious in Seiko News is that this little price ticket, you can actually remove it. It's made of metal, which is incredible. Again, Grand Seiko, there we can see the price, 25,000 yen. And it's clearly designed so that it can stand up of its own accord. So it would be possible, if it was on a flat surface, it could stand up of its own accord. So it would be possible to display the watch in the window with the price ticket next to it, and very, very easy for people to see what the watch was. So that was fascinating to find out that actually comes out and stands up. We've never seen one of those before on other sets. Okay, so that's the contents of the box in terms of the swing tags and the watch. We'll look at this watch separately in a moment. So let's just put that to one side and have a look at the paperwork that comes with the watch. So first up, we have the manual. So Grand Seiko chronometer. Again, we can see a photograph and we can see the design of the crown here, which is very different to the crown that you seem to get on later you do get on later examples of the Grand Seiko First. We can just about make out in this photograph that these are actually the mounted, what we call the mounting hands, the three-dimensional faceted hands. Obviously, no way of telling whether that's a printed or a carved dial. But there we have the details of the regularly adjusted chronometers, and then the Grand Seiko of supreme quality in terms of the performance. Again, just more. We'll scan this in full and put it on the site as well, if we haven't already actually. So that's the booklet. The Grand Seiko logo on the back, and then the really interesting thing, which is even without the box, it's just so rare for the watch to still have its original certificate, which is obviously folded out. So we'll just place that so we can see the whole thing. And here, I'm going to jump to the bottom. So here we can see that the date of inspection was February the 23rd, 1961. So that puts sort of like a hard start on when this watch could have been retailed. So I think it's probably fair to say that at least up until February, so we're talking about the first sort of two and a half months of sales, the watches must have been sold with the first early box. When they stopped selling it with that box, we don't know, but it's just so rare to come across these. So we see the movement number repeated on the certificate here, 605950, which obviously matches that on the swing tag. I must say this watch seems to be very, very good. We can see that for the different positions, the first 2 days it was just -1 second per day, so no variation in the daily rates. This is what's important, this column, not necessarily this one. So this is showing the precision. And then the third and fourth day, so vertical 3 o'clock up, and that was +1 second per day. And then vertical 9 o'clock up, spot on for the first day, -1 second for the second day. And then horizontal dial down, 00. So if you don't ever want to tell the time with this watch, put it face down and it will keep very good time. And then horizontal dial up, +4 seconds a day. So very, very good performance. Temperature-wise, running 13 seconds fast when it's cold, 4 degrees, +3 at 20 degrees. So that's basically the same measurement that we see in days 9 and 10 here. So that's horizontal dial up at 20 degrees. And then finally +3 at 36. So very, very stable in sort of the 20 to mid-30s, but running quite fast when it's cold at +13. And then this is the rate resuming at the end, so vertical 6 o'clock up, I think 14 and 15 after it's been through these temperature tests, then tests for 2 more days back at 20 degrees, and then it's running at -3 seconds per day. So they're then summarised at the bottom. So we have a gold stamp here where there's some red lettering on it, which seems to have worn over time. And on the back of the certificate, we see both in Japanese and English a description of the watch chronometer. Grand Seiko is entitled with the designation of chronometer upon passing the strict tests according to the following inspection standard for watch chronometer. So it's these ones on the right. So this is, if you think the target was plus or minus 12, from -3 to +12 as a mean daily rate, it had to fall within there. And then 4 seconds in terms of mean variation, 7 seconds maximum variation, and these other figures. If you then compare those with what this actually recorded, its mean daily rate in the 5 positions is plus 0.7 seconds, and it could have been anywhere within -3 to +12, and it would have passed. And then 0.2 for the mean variation. So I won't go through them all. This is whoever assembled and regulated this watch did an absolutely cracking job, because this is basically VFA standard almost. Very, very interesting indeed. Okay, so that's the certificate. We'll just put that away. Okay, so what I want to just talk briefly about now is the situation that we have with the crowns on the Grand Seiko First. As I said when we were looking at the March 61 issue of Seiko News, there's 3 different, or what looks like 3 different crowns actually pictured on the Grand Seiko First in that issue. And none of them look like the crown, which is what we see most commonly on Grand Seiko First. So what I've done is I've just brought in another example. On the left-hand side, we have the carved dial that is from this box set. On the right-hand side, we have a very late, I think from August 63, AD dial. This is a very, very rare dial variant that came in at the end of production. And straight away, if you look at the crowns, you'll see they're very different. So the early one that we see here on the left-hand side has a fine knurl to it, whereas the one on the right has this much coarser knurl. It's almost like the opposite of what we see with the 57 series, where the 43999, the early production, actually back now, I think all of the production of the 43999 from the 57 series has a coarse knurled crown, and then the later production that we see coming sort of, I think from about 65 or 66 onwards, has a finer knurl, but with the Grand Seiko First it went the other way around. Now the existence of this fine knurled crown, I think, was not recognised for quite some time. It is very rare to see a Grand Seiko First with a fine knurled crown like this. I'm fairly convinced that this is the correct one, because it looks exactly as one does in that March 1961 issue of Seiko News. But unfortunately, over the years, it was believed that the correct crown is the correct crown is the one that we see on the right, and so many early Grand Seiko Firsts have actually had the crown incorrectly replaced over time. So that's an interesting point, but not really one that we can do much about now, 50, 60 years after the event. So I just wanted to show that. And interestingly, something arrived at the same time as these 2 watches. I'm going to show, because I'm already zoomed in, I'll show it now and then I'll zoom out. So I just push the watches back and just bring this into center of frame. And this is a marketing pamphlet. It's for Christmas. I'm not sure which Christmas. I need to check the other watches that are featured, and clocks in fact, which are featured on this document, to see if we can establish which year it was. I don't believe it would be 1961, so I think it's probably either 62 or 63. We can see both the Grand Seiko and the King Seiko featured at the top of this page, and what is very, very obvious, and I'll just bring the watch back in, set it next to it, we can see that the crown that is pictured on this watch is indeed the later coarse knurled crown. So what I'm just going to do now is just very quickly break and zoom out just so I can show you the whole of this leaflet. Okay, so this is the advertising pamphlet that we've recently had in. We've not seen one of these before. This is obviously for Christmas, as I mentioned. I'm not sure which Christmas, probably 62 or 63. At the bottom, I believe this says give Seiko, receive Seiko. So it's obviously people would be very chuffed if they received a Seiko as a Christmas present, and very generous if they gave one. It's just a single sheet folded in half, so that creates the 4 pages. And as we see, as we looked at earlier on the left-hand page, there we have the Grand Seiko at the top. Some other watches, which hopefully should enable us to identify exactly what year this was, because when you get a grouping of watches like this, it's very rare that all of those watches would be around for the same period of time. So hopefully, with being able to look at when these other watches were in the market, we can narrow this down to the exact year, whether it's 62 or 63, and then on the back some clocks, and as we've seen on another similar pamphlet to this, there's the space in the bottom right hand corner where the retailer's details are printed. Okay, so that was just a little side thing on the crown there. We've done the unboxing now, so I guess we'll box it back up. So there's the certificate and the manual, and then the inner box goes in here. I've lost the watch for a moment, so I'll put the watch in there as well. Again, just one last look at that incredible inner box, and what is almost certainly the only video, or I should say the first video on the internet of the boxing of the early box for the Grand Seiko First. Thank you for watching.